Today's Metro News television forecast is brought to you by Greer Industries, improving people's lives for more than a century.
Meteorologist Joe Hansel here. Still be mindful of this extended and prolonged flood watch that includes most of the state, near and over and west of Appalachia generally. Near and west of the mountains, we'll have a lot of flood watches as we're watching for potentially some heavy and excessive rain, flooding, flash flooding, stream river flooding, all a possibility, all until 8 a.m. Sunday. So Friday, Saturday, Sunday morning. And I wanted to zoom out the extent of all those flood watches in the dark green. And earlier this morning, southeast Missouri, they had some flash flood warnings and one flash flood emergency last night and this morning. It appears either lagging this morning in Missouri. Now, they're traveling south-southeast stationary at times, so still multiple days of some heavy and excessive rain, locally higher amounts, and Storm Prediction Center still including some northeast and southern areas and a marginal risk for isolated damaging winds with any possible storms today. Had a high of 83 yesterday in Charleston, just over a half-inch of rain yesterday, so we added more rain. And I'll watch for that risk of excessive rain for some isolated to scattered flash flooding possibilities today and tonight, and some isolated damaging winds. Fly saver forecast, it starts at home. Areas to our southeast, the coastal Carolinas and down to Florida, still in the middle of a heat wave down there. For us, as we look ahead over the next 7 days, again today, Saturday, Sunday, flood watch until 8 a.m. Monday, Tuesday, we trend drier as some high pressure finally starts to work in and we kick out that slowly moving front. So be mindful of flooding potential through the weekend. As we dry out, we'll warm up a bit. Highs potentially approaching 90 around there middle of next week. Have us near the big 90 on Wednesday.
In 1914, the same year the first commercial flight soared and the Panama Canal opened, Greer Industries was born. Herbert and Agnes Greer began in Morgantown, West Virginia, striking the first pick into the limestone formation that would become the backbone of one of the state's great industrial legacies. From the roads we drive on, the buildings we build, and the communities we serve, Greer Industries has been delivering quality for decades. At Greer Industries, we've been improving lives for more than a century.
Live from West Virginia's capital city with news from across the state. This is Metro News Midday, presented by Salango Law, with 13 News and Tonight Live anchor Amanda Barron and Metro News' Dave Allen.
It is a Friday afternoon. It's Metro News Midday powered by Salango Law. Visit salangolaw.com. Open line West Virginia coming up at the bottom of the hour. Nothing but your calls and text. 1-800-765-TALK or text 304-TALK-304. It's Metro News Midday.
Metro News Midday is presented by Salango Law. SalangoLaw.com. Join in by calling 800-765-8255 or text 304-TALK-304. Let's go live to downtown Charleston. Here's Dave Allen.
Welcome into a Friday edition of Metro News Midday, powered by Salango Law. Visit salangolaw.com. Stephanie Pauly, Ryan Nicholson, our producers today. 1-800-765-TALK is the phone number. Text 304-TALK-304. Daniel Woods is standing by with our Weekend Sports Blitz, kind of getting you ready for the weekend in sports. We'll get to that momentarily. But again, our big story today, and Daniel joins us now. Our big story today, though, has been this helicopter crash in Pocahontas County.
That's right. And just to bring everybody up to speed, there was a helicopter crash near the Huntersville community this morning. And this is a story that we've been following all day. We've been getting more and more information as the day's gone on. And right around the time you all came on the air that Jeff Jenkins was on at the top of the show, we were able to confirm that the pilot was from Waco Oil and Gas. It was a Waco Oil and Gas owned helicopter. The pilot was an employee of the company. And that Ike Morris, who is the owner of Waco Oil and Gas, very well known in Gilmer County, around Glenville and around the state, has a cabin in that area. And the pilot, Leo Basili, who was 57, was killed in that crash in Pocahontas County and was traveling to a gathering at Ike Morris's property in Pocahontas County. So there's more information coming.
Sure,
NTSB, if they are not on site already, is en route for the full investigation, but that's what we know at this time.
All right. Again, follow WVMetroNews.com and on the air as well, because we'll have further updates as they become available, because we don't know at this point. You know, we've been in this in this kind of stuck in this whole thing with the rain and the fog. But it's kind of been scattered, so we don't know what that is. The NTSB will come out with a full report on that at some point. We'll have it for you on air and online as well.
And we expect the FAA will have a preliminary report typically the next business day, but it's a Friday, so we're still a couple of days away from even a preliminary report from the FAA, and then we'll get the full investigation from NTSB.
A tragic situation,
Terrible.
Regardless. And the type of, I was talking to someone who was familiar with this, friend of mine up in that part of the state, and he said the type of helicopter that was. This is not. When you get an image in your head, Daniel, of a helicopter, you think of like the medical evacuation type of. This was like a corporate, almost like an apartment type. That's the way. I don't mean to make light of it, but that's the way he described it to me. He said that the helicopter is like an apartment almost.
Yeah, it's a big aircraft. I believe this model in particular holds enough for 14 people. So this is not a small helicopter that was involved.
All right. Let's transition to sports. We had you on the show yesterday talking about the Big 12 Media Days. Now that you've had a chance to look over everything and listen to the comments from Coach Rod and the other coaches in the league, generally your takeaway?
I actually was having a conversation with somebody the other day, yesterday, about this off the air, and I think West Virginia is in a position where expectations are low, and in a lot of ways that's where West Virginia football thrives. I think Rich Rodriguez is confident that he has a better team than people think. I think he's confident that he has a better team than he had last year. And when you look at things on paper, I think it's very reasonable to believe that. Beyond that, Texas Tech and BYU seem to be the favorites among the league, and I think that's fair. BYU brings back a whole lot from a very good team last year. Texas Tech, in the midst of all the Brendan Sorsby situation, still is spending as much money as anybody in the Big 12. They should be favored. They will be favored, along with BYU. After that, just about everybody has at least one big question, and that's where I leave things. You've got teams like Utah and Kansas State that have a ton of talent back but have first-year head coaches. You have an Arizona State team that had its quarterback transfer to LSU. You have an Arizona team that has a multi-year starter and quarterback in Noah Fafita, but what are they putting around him? So I think that's really where a lot of the questions lie. Anybody else that you think could jump up and join Texas Tech and BYU at the top of the league has that huge question mark of the other 14 teams in the league. And after you get past that top two, I think it's going to be a really interesting year. And even with those two, I don't think either of them are unassailable, as nobody's going to touch these guys this year.
What's the big question for WVU? Now, I know everybody, because quarterback is the most glamorous position. That's what everybody from Pee Wee leagues to the NFL wants to talk about. But it seems to me that either way, they're going to be good there. But is there another question mark for WVU?
To me, it's how quickly can you bring together a roster that has been flipped this much? Because you completely turned the roster over last offseason really just to get a team on the field. There were so many guys that left when Neil Brown was fired. There was just generally not a whole lot returning on that team, that you had to add so many guys that to be able to put anything resembling a Big 12 football team on the field, you needed to bring in 40, 50, 60 guys, and that's what they did. The downside to that Rich Rodriguez has talked about was, one, they were coming in behind the eight ball because they came in late because it was a new coaching staff. So a lot of guys they may have targeted early in the process were already off the board. And then two, what was available to them, what they could go and get, was a lot of guys that were seniors. They had 40-plus seniors last year, so you had to then turn around and replace all of those guys. And they had a very big high school recruiting class this year, but I am interested to see, again, with all of that turnover in the offseason, how quickly does it come together? Because what you can practice all you want, you can have all these offseason workouts, as many as you want, but until you line up there and play against somebody that's not wearing the same jersey as you, you don't necessarily know what you have. And I think what WVU looks like week 1 might be a different product than what you see week 12.
All right, let's keep talking about football, because I could do that all the time.
Sure.
You know, to talk
Let's do
about
it.
football. High school football. I know we get Joe Bricado out on the road doing the Joe Bro tour as he does every year this
Yes.
time of year, going to all these different places. What are you hearing from Joe?
Well, he was at Tucker County, was the most recent stop, and we talked about that a little bit this morning on the morning news. That is a Tucker County program that has won 5 playoff games in the last 3 years in Class A, and there's a lot of moving pieces there. But it's going to be a really fun year, I think, for Tucker County. It's going to be a really fun year for Single A. I think overall you've got Wheeling Central Catholic that was the state champion last year, had a record-setting performance from their running back, Cade Coronas, in the championship game. But you look at this Tucker County team, they're going to play 3 of the 4 semifinalists from a year ago. That includes a Clay Battelle team that was in the state championship, lost to Wheeling Central, gets their quarterback Corey Cohen back, has a lot of really talented athletes, and I think that Single A field is always a ton of fun. Pendleton County has maybe the best quarterback in Single A, in Colton Roberson, who's back again. They were in the semifinals, lost to Wheeling Central. And then Joe has made some stops with other programs that have had a lot of recent success, namely Morgantown in Class Quad A that are coming off their first state championship in a couple of decades. They've got Maddox Twigg back at quarterback for his junior year, was the J.R. House Award winner last year as the best quarterback in West Virginia. He's got an offer from WVU and from Marshall. He's been to Bridgeport, where they were upset by Chapmanville in the playoffs, and they have so much talent back from a year ago. Doddridge County in Double-A, they made it to the semifinals, lost to the eventual state championship team in Frankfort, and they are one of those programs that just reloads every year. So anybody out there, I would encourage you, if you want to know what's going on in West Virginia high school football, you go to WVMetroNews.com, you go to Metro News Television, you find Joe's summer visits with these programs, and in 3 to 5 minutes, you will know what's going on at your local high school.
A couple of things that have been of interest to me. One we covered on the network show and one I covered on the local show. It has to do with football teams trying to field a team. One of those is in Class Single A, Van. We talked to Coach Mark Agosti earlier this week, and he's hopeful that they're going to be able to field a football team because this is a school that's got a incredible tradition over the years. It's a very small school in Boone County. And last year, they didn't even field a football team. And, it's a very small school, understandable. But in interviewing him this week, he feels pretty hopeful that, it's July 10th.
Right.
He's hopeful that the Van Bulldogs will be back out on the gridiron this fall.
That's the program that produced a guy named Tony Gibson. I'm not sure if you've heard of him.
Yeah.
But I feel for these communities around the state and Van, and we've talked a little bit off the air about St. Albans and what's
going
going on there.
Next point, yeah.
And that's a AAA program.
Yeah.
And I think what we've seen is a lot of the movement of athletes in West Virginia high school sports has caused some of this. I don't want to 100% pin it on that. Football as a whole in West Virginia is shrinking for a lot of reasons. There's less high school students, first of all, but you have these transfer rules that are now going away that I think maybe we'll see this start to come back around where there are more athletes at some of these smaller programs. But I think you saw athletes transferring out of schools for one reason or another, whether it's I want to go to a bigger school or I want to go to a school with a better football team. And the Vans of the world and St. Albans, who you mentioned you wanted to ask about, they kind of get left behind. And whether it's we don't have enough or we're playing all underclassmen, it's really difficult. And I feel for these communities because in so many ways, these programs and these athletic departments are the lifeblood of these small West Virginia communities. And, Friday Night Lights, it's a real thing in West Virginia.
If, West Virginia is a relatively small state anyway, in the big picture of things, and I'm not trying to say that high school sports is not big in the Kanawha Valley because it is, and in the Morgantown area and Martinsburg, whatever. But you get into these, like maybe central West Virginia, southern West Virginia, to a certain extent, northern West Virginia, where there aren't 7 or 8 schools in the county when there's one, and they have their county rival. And even if it doesn't matter who they're playing, the entire team or the entire town rather shuts down when the high school football team is playing on Friday night. And for a community like Van, again, as you talked about producing Tony Gibson, and I'm very hopeful that the coach will be able to make this work. Now, conversely, you mentioned St. Albans. This is an interesting – we talked about this a lot on our local show in Charleston. This is a program, St. Albans Red Dragons, storied tradition, have had great football teams over the year, have won championships recently, you
Right.
know, in other sports. AAA school that was Quad A at one point that is very much in danger of not having a football team this year simply because not enough kids are going out. Has nothing to do with the population of the
Right.
school. As I said, it's a AAA school.
It just won a state baseball championship.
Exactly. And they and I talked to Coach Dan Brown. He's going to come on our local show this week. They're going to have a team or a town hall meeting like Wednesday at St. Albans High School to try to meet with the business leaders, try to meet with the parents, the grandparents. Maybe you could talk to your grandkid, talk to the kid you go to church with about maybe trying to play. But and it would just be unfathomable to me that a school the size of St. Albans wouldn't have a football team this fall.
Incredible. And some of that has to do with the transfer rules. You and I are both here in Charleston. We have seen the last couple of years how much player movement there is and how quickly have-nots can go to haves and haves can go to have-nots in Kanawha Valley football in particular. And I think St. Albans has been affected by that. And, sometimes it just breaks bad in every way you can think of. And like I said, sometimes you get a couple of small classes that come through in a row where you don't have as many boys going out for sports and you have some kids transfer away and it just doesn't work out the way that you're hoping it will. And for St. Albans' sake and for the sake of all of these programs in West Virginia high school football, I want to see as many of these teams be able to play as possible because like you talked about, it's lifeblood of the community. Something that I've had this little idea spinning around in my head along with some other folks behind the scenes that I have not pitched to anyone, but hey, if the powers that be are out there listening right now, this is an idea that I had that it would be something interesting on Friday nights. Greg Carey gives you the written story for the game that he's at. Joe Mercado has the highlights of the game that you're at. So many of these communities, it's everything that it means to them. I want to get out there and get into the community, and this is what it's like going to the Chapmanville Scott rivalry football game, or this is what it's like at a West Side Wyoming East basketball game. This is what it's like in this environment. And that's something that goes away if you don't have these community schools.
Yeah. I love the idea.
Yeah.
All right. So you know that you're going to be the one to do that, right?
I want to be the one to do that.
Okay. All right. I do want to talk a little basketball here for a moment.
Let's do
because
it.
there's a lot of folks with connections to West Virginia universities with a S at the end.
Yes.
That are playing some summer league ball.
That's right. And it's an exciting time. The NBA Summer League, for those that don't know a whole lot about it, it's an opportunity not just for guys that just got drafted to get an opportunity to get out on the floor, play with some guys that will probably be their teammates in the future, but it's an opportunity for a lot of young guys that are trying to make it to get in front of NBA scouts, but also get in front of agents, get in front of scouts for teams overseas. And WVU has been well represented for quite some time, just about every year at the Summer League. But at this point, Marshall is very well represented. You've got some in-state guys that went elsewhere for college. And I was reminded earlier today, one that I missed when I was reporting on this earlier this week on the morning news. So you've got 8 guys that spent time in a WVU uniform, and I might make myself silly because I'm going to try to name them all offhand. Eric Stevenson, Javon Small, Jesse Edwards, Trayson Eaglestaff, and Toby O'Connie are all guys that finished their careers at WVU. And then you add in Muhammad Wagee, Tucker DeVries, and Jalen Bridges that all played at WVU, then transferred elsewhere. Jalen Bridges is a West Virginia native as well from Fairmont. You've got 3 West Virginia natives playing in Jalen Bridges, Jake Stevens from Musselman, and John Elmore, who played at Marshall, was a tremendous player at Marshall. And then you've got 3 guys from Marshall with John Elmore, Wyatt Fricks, who just finished his career there, and then Tavion Kinsey. All of those guys are playing in the NBA Summer League. Ton of guys with West Virginia ties. Then I was reminded earlier today, the Philadelphia 76ers added J.J. Harper, who started his college career at Concord, then played at West Liberty, then transferred to Liberty at the Division I level. So that's 14 guys, and for all I know, I'm missing some that have ties in one way or another to the state of West Virginia. Isaac McNeely from Polka. That's 4 from in-state. He's the one that played yesterday, and I completely forgot about that. Isaac McNeely from Polka makes it 4 in-state guys from West Virginia. He had 10 points for the Atlanta Hawks yesterday against the Spurs. So if you got nothing to do and you're sitting around, throw on ESPN2, throw on Amazon Prime Video, you'll probably throw a dart out there and hit somebody that has a basketball tie to the state of West Virginia.
Do we still care about the World Cup now that the USA is not in it anymore?
I do. I don't know.
You and producer Ethan do, right?
That is true. I'm in a group chat with producer Ethan with a bunch of our college friends that we're locked into the action. We get Spain and Belgium coming up here at 3:00, and then the other two quarterfinals are tomorrow.
All right.
Norway against England, Argentina against Switzerland.
We don't spend a lot of time talking about NASCAR, but I do want to say I think they're in Atlanta this weekend. My guy,
Your guy,
Chase Briscoe, won last week in Chicago.
Congratulations.
Yeah, so I'm not the NASCAR fan that I used to be.
Let me know where to send the fruit basket.
Okay, yeah, well, I prefer meats and cheeses.
That's fine.
But yeah, Chase Briscoe, who's ran pretty well this season. He just hasn't won a lot, but in NASCAR, you don't necessarily have to win. I mean, you can win the championship without winning a race. I mean, the way NASCAR, because it's based on points.
It seems counterintuitive.
Yes. If you just finish in the top 5 or 10, you'll have a good season without even winning one. But he did win in Chicago last week. Daniel, appreciate you being here, my friend. Thanks a lot. Have a good weekend. 2:24, and we'll be back after this.
We'll be right back. This is Metro News Midday. Metro News, the voice of West Virginia.
Of course, the LVA was brought into my life because I had a severe heart attack in November of 2024. And then I entered into congestive heart failure.
Where he was in the course, we really had to go towards an LVAD.
At that point, I was committed. At that point, I wanted to get better, and I wanted to see what this machine was going to do for me.
With this therapy, he's thriving, doing well. And not only is he living, he's thriving.
I'm Sean Kovich, Mountaineer Golf Coach. When disaster strikes your home, business, or golf game, call the restoration company the Mountaineers call. Panhandle Cleaning and Restoration.
1914, the same year the first commercial flight soared and the Panama Canal opened, Greer Industries was born. Herbert and Agnes Greer began in Morgantown, West Virginia, striking the first pick into the limestone formation that would become the backbone of one of the state's great industrial legacies. From the roads we drive on, the buildings we build, and the communities we serve, Greer Industries has been delivering quality for decades. At Greer Industries, we've been improving lives for more than a century.
You own a boat because you love spending time on the water. Choose the outboard that allows you to make the most of it. Honda Marine's legendary reliability, ease of maintenance, and powerful performance keep you going strong. And they're all backed by the peace of mind protection of the industry's best limited warranty. Visit your Honda Marine dealer today and find out why it's more than an engine. It's your time on the water.
Leading the efforts to build a stronger West Virginia, the High Technology Foundation has a proven plan to strengthen and diversify our state's economy. The I-79 Technology Park's high-capacity infrastructure continues to attract advanced federal operations that are driving economic growth. This keeps our young, educated residents in the state and brings West Virginians home. The High Technology Foundation, building a stronger West Virginia. Learn more today at WVHTF.org.
If it matters in West Virginia, it's being talked about here.
I always said I was going to move to a mountain in Tucker County, but probably going to put a data center on it, so I got to find a new plan.
Join Dave Wilson and TJ Meadows for Talkline on Metro News Television. Sportsline on Metro News Television.
I was sitting with a guy last night, and he said, all right, I'm going to go put $1,000 on it. Well, down the stretch of that ball game, he's looking at us like, are you kidding me? Sure enough, the Mountaineers came back. I saw him today. He said, yep, I'm putting another grand on them tomorrow.
For over 20 years, Dan Cava Toyota World has been more than a dealership. We're family-owned, community-focused, and committed to taking care of our customers long after the sale. Our commitment doesn't stop when you drive off the lot. With factory-trained technicians and a service team you can trust, we're here to keep your vehicle running at its best for years to come. So when it's time to get your next vehicle, choose the dealership that's been serving the community for generations. Visit Dan Cava Toyota World in Fairmont. Shop the world!
Welcome back to the show, 228. We have some information here available from the West Virginia State Police, the official release on the helicopter crash. And I'll just kind of paraphrase it because it's very long, as you can imagine. Friday, being today, approximately 7:45 a.m., the State Police Elkins Detachment received a report of a downed aircraft, as we've been telling you, in the Huntersville area, Pocahontas County. Troopers from Elkins and Marlington detachments, along with Pocahontas County Office of Emergency Management and the Marlington Volunteer Fire Department, responded to the scene. And they determined that this privately owned helicopter did crash, and it was owned, as we've been telling you, by Waco Oil and Gas Company, being operated by the pilot, Leo Basili, 57, of Arthurdale. The investigation determined that Mr. Basili was the sole occupant of the aircraft that was pronounced deceased at the scene. Next of kin has been notified. The FAA has been notified, coordinating with the appropriate investigative agencies, and the cause of the crash remains under investigation. And as Daniel said, generally speaking, there'll be some sort of a press release come out from the FAA on the next business day, but that being Saturday. Could be late tonight, could be Saturday, could be on Monday. But follow along, WVMetroNews.com, and on air too, because we'll have the latest information from that tragic helicopter crash in Pocahontas County early this morning. Open Line West Virginia is on the way. 1-800-765-TALK or text 304-TALK-304. It's Metro News Midday.
Today's Metro News television forecast is brought to you by Greer Industries, improving people's lives for more than a century.
Meteorologist Joe Hansel here. Still be mindful of this extended and prolonged flood watch that includes most of the state, near and over and west of Appalachia generally. Near and west of the mountains, we'll have a lot of flood watches as we're watching for potentially some heavy and excessive rain, flooding, flash flooding, stream river flooding, all a possibility, all until 8 a.m. Sunday. So Friday, Saturday, Sunday morning. And I wanted to zoom out the extent of all those flood watches in the dark green. And earlier this morning, southeast Missouri, they had some flash flood warnings and one flash flood emergency last night and this morning. It appears either last night or within the last 24 hours in there, anywhere from a half a foot to a foot of rain fell. And there's still some additional rain out there occurring this morning in Missouri. Now, there will be some heavy moisture in this slowly moving front traveling south-southeast stationary at times, so still multiple days of some heavy and excessive rain, locally higher amounts, and Storm Prediction Center still including some northeast and southern areas and a marginal risk for isolated damaging winds with any possible storms today. Had a high of 83 yesterday in Charleston, just over a half-inch of rain yesterday, so we added more rain. And I'll watch for that risk of excessive rain for some isolated to scattered flash flooding possibilities today and tonight, and some isolated damaging winds. Fly-saver forecast, it starts at home. Areas to our southeast, the coastal Carolinas and down to Florida, still in the middle of a heat wave down there. For us, as we look ahead over the next 7 days, again today, Saturday, Sunday, flood watch until 8 a.m. Monday, Tuesday, we trend drier as some high pressure finally starts to work in and we kick out that slowly moving front, so be mindful of flooding potential through the weekend. As we dry out, we'll warm up a bit. Highs potentially approaching 90 around there middle of next week. Have us near the big 90 on Wednesday.
In 1914, the same year the first commercial flight soared and the Panama Canal opened, Greer Industries was born. Herbert and Agnes Greer began in Morgantown, West Virginia, striking the first pick into the limestone formation that would become the backbone of one of the state's great industrial legacies. From the roads we drive on, the buildings we build, and the communities we serve, Greer Industries has been delivering quality for decades. At Greer Industries, we've been improving lives for more than a century.
When you hired me, you were 29. You seemed like you were 50 when you were 29. You were running that thing like a 50-year-old man. All right, we got to go get some tape. Come on, get out of there.
I think I've sort of always been 50, and I think I'm 50 now.
Yeah, me too.
That's
me too.
a great point. Join Tony Caridi, Brad Howe, and Hoppy Kercheval for Three Guys Before the Game. Metro News Television. Available on mobile, Roku, Fire TV, smart TVs, and online at WVMetroNewsTV.com. Looking for a show that talks about everything? You found it.
By the way, I'm really happy to talk about this as opposed to Ryan's opinion that being a sports fan is a bad thing.
He said that it kept him from being stressed about it, not that it was a bad thing, that they didn't have the stress. And, I mean, I've seen you pace.
Yeah, you're only 30 and you look like that.
So true.
Join Dave Weekly and Coop weekdays for Hotline on Metro News Television.
Visit loc.gov/vets today.
This is Metro News Midday, presented by Salango Law. SalangoLaw.com.
Welcome back to the show. 26 away from 3 o'clock on a Friday afternoon. Metro News Midday powered by Salango Law. Visit SalangoLaw.com. Ryan Nicholson, Stephanie Pauly, our producers today. 1-800-765-TALK. That is the phone number. Text 304-TALK-304. We keep saying that, and, we talk a lot behind the scenes about things we want to do with the show, but I think at some point we're going to come up with like a totally all-access look at what goes on behind the scenes here. And I just happen to have a little video that I did earlier. If you heard the segment we do at 1 o'clock on Fridays, the lunch spot, we were interviewing the folks at Keith's Bar and Grill in Man, Logan County, and they have a hot dog called the Mall Dog, and it's like Mamaw, like we use in West Virginia, but it's more pronounced Mall. And I'm trying to work with Amanda Barron and telling her how to correctly pronounce it. And so I thought, just as a little funny to the owner, Keith Gamble, that I would do a video of me teaching Amanda how to say Mall Dog. And I didn't like literally grab her chin and try to force the words out because she is from Cleveland and I would get knocked on the floor. So I didn't want to do that, but I don't know. Maybe I'll post it at some point. It's kind of funny. 1-800-765-TALK is the phone number. Text 304-TALK-304. Let's get to your text. This is Open Line, West Virginia. Text says, this is a reference to Hoppy. It says, if Hoppy were not bad-mouthing Trump, he's just stating facts. A lot of people have their own narrative, but they are not facts. Hoppy just giving the facts. I get to listen to some of Talkline and Steam Release on Fridays, and somebody, I think, and I'm very much paraphrasing here, but I think somebody called the show today and said that they would like to have Hoppy to continue to do commentaries because he had a lot of insight, but they all have to be about bashing Trump. That was the gist of what the caller was saying on Steam Release today, and so that was the response to that. But hey, they texted during my show or our show, so I'll put it out there. Texas, beyond the ongoing solo remodeling efforts in D.C. Of a big ballroom, a very tall arch, and the no-bid ongoing upgrade of our nation's reflection pool, may I now suggest the timely, privately funded placement of gas lights around these solo projects in recognition of our nation's capital now becoming the gaslighting capital of the world, says a texter. Text, okay, noted. Told you about what they said about Keith's Bar and Grill. Text, Donald Trump is still your president, liberals. Get over it, says a texter. Text, so a town can simply fire the entire police department? How is that possible? Reference to Barrackville, and there has been some kind of goings-on there back and forth between the city and the police, the council, and whatever and so forth. I will leave that up to the news team, WVMetroNews.com. Text says, I don't agree that Mitch McConnell has served his country. He's a partisan hack who ignored the Constitution when Judge Scalia died just because he didn't want President Obama to appoint a replacement. 1-800-765-TALK, text 304-TALK-304. Texas State is losing a true gem with Chelsea Ruby leaving the tourism office. She was a rock star, and she will be missed. She was, in my opinion, very good at what she did. Now, again, I'm not behind the scenes. I am approaching her from a media standpoint. And anytime that we ever reached out to her on this or the local show or any of the people in our company, she was always easily accessible. She announced yesterday that she's leaving as a tourism commissioner for the state of West Virginia. I have no insight. I have not talked to Chelsea about it. She's always welcome if she wants to come on the show to talk more about it. But if not, thank her for her service because I think she did a fantastic job as tourism secretary for the state of West Virginia. Text says, people are all upset that these clothing vouchers are being held up when you're going to understand that Republicans don't like kids. says the texter. Well, to that I would say there are many Republicans that have gone public saying that it's time for these vouchers to go out. Many Republicans have come out and said that. I mean, many of them have said, what's the deal here? So to say it's just a Republican issue, no, I would think not, because we've had them on the air, on the network, Republicans saying it's time to get this clothing voucher thing straightened out. 1-800-765-TALK, text 304-TALK 304. Text, wait a minute, Mark Curtis called Democrats hypocrites because some defended Planter, who was accused of but never convicted of sexual assault. I've never heard any Republicans criticize Donald Trump, who was convicted of sexual misconduct and had to pay her over $5 million, or had to pay $5 million to E. Jean Carroll, says a texter. Text, interesting that the state Republican Party now wants to let independents vote in the primary again. I guess they got the message last election. See TJ's commentary for more information on that. Texas, God bless the sane Republicans that are willing to stand up to Morrissey and to Trump. We need more of them. Let's see. Text, Dave was just wondering why Morrissey and his wife weren't investigated over the opioids flooding our states. And what did they know, and when did they know it? When he was the top law enforcer in the state, and this went on for years before anything was done. Text, this whole I Love Public Schools campaign is laughable. There's a reason why parents are choosing to take their kids out of the liberal indoctrination factories known as public schools. Yeah. Everybody's entitled to their opinion. That's why we live in this country, and that's why you're allowed to call and text the show, and why I'm allowed to give my opinions as well. I am going to push back on the fact that schools are liberal indoctrination factories. I will say that in schools, there are some teachers in West Virginia, as well as across the country, that may go a little bit far in pushing one ideology, whether it's liberal or conservative, but that's certainly not indicative of the entire school system. And I know what you're saying, well, you don't have kids or grandkids, you don't know. Well, I spent a lot of time in schools. In my job with the Secretary of State's office, I went in public schools on a regular basis and did voter registration drives. And what we did and continue to do is certainly not what they continue to do. I mean, after I left, it's certainly not partisan in any way. And I never saw any indication of any ideology being pushed. But, again, I wasn't there every day, and I get it. Text, FYI, Dave, I fully got your joke with the posting of the squirrel video. Very clever, says the text. Just having a little fun. Doesn't need any explanation. You can view it at Dave Allen Radio on Facebook or at Dave870 on X. Just a simple video of squirrels running amok at the Capitol. Now, if you want to read more into that as a political commentary, not necessarily. I just posted a video that was sent to, I didn't record it. It was sent to me by a friend, of videos at the Capitol. That's all I'm saying. But the squirrels are still there, still being the key word. 1-800-765-TALK, text 304-TALK 304. Text, well, I see the governor got rid of another great person, Chelsea Ruby. I'm sure he'll get some yes man to take over. That's all he and Trump want. Well, again, I don't pretend to know what went into the decision for Chelsea Ruby to leave the office. I mean, she left. I haven't talked to her. I mean, she just said she was leaving. I don't know. I don't know what led to that, if anything. Maybe she just got a different job. I do not know. Is Trump smarter than a fifth grader? Sends a texter. Texas check definition of communism fits Republicans and Trump to the T. Well, that's pretty ridiculous. 1-800-765-TALK, phone number, text 304-TALK 304. Text, if you want to vote Republican, then register that way. How many times do we need to have this same argument? Says the texter. Text, Dave, these voucher funds are federal. Should the DOJ step in and investigate where these funds are at? Text, McConnell helped Nixon to create the EPA when he was a young senator. Kudos, says the texter, to those exposing corruption in Harrison County schools. It's been going on for years, says the texter. Text, did you ever go to a seminar and the speaker gives out their business card and says their door is always open for you to contact them, then you try to contact them for weeks and weeks and they never respond. I'm talking about the local state government office, but I won't give any specifics, says a texter. Text says just broke clothing voucher applications start July 20th. Okay, we'll check into that. Appreciate it. Text, I love West Virginia students, and the Hope Scholarship is the best education policy West Virginia has passed in my lifetime. 244 1-800-765-TALK or text 304-TALK-304. It's Metro News Midday. We will take a break and come back after this.
We'll be right back. This is Metro News Midday. Metro News, the voice of West Virginia.
Leading the efforts to build a stronger West Virginia, the High Technology Foundation has a proven plan to strengthen and diversify our state's economy. The I-79 Technology Park's high-capacity infrastructure continues to attract advanced federal operations that are driving economic growth. This keeps our young, educated residents in the state and brings West Virginians home. The High Technology Foundation, building a stronger West Virginia. Learn more today at WVHTF.org.
For over 20 years, Dan Cava Toyota World has been more than a dealership. We're family-owned, community-focused, and committed to taking care of our customers long after the sale. Our commitment doesn't stop when you drive off the lot. With factory-trained technicians and a service team you can trust, we're here to keep your vehicle running at its best for years to come. So when it's time to get your next vehicle, choose the dealership that's been serving the community for generations. Visit Dan Cava Toyota World in Fairmont. Shop the world.
We're Panhandle Cleaning and Restoration, and we're gonna save you. We've got it down to a science, an absolute state of art. We do it all, restoration, cleaning, and reconstruction. When disaster strikes, just pick up the phone. We're Panhandle Cleaning and Restoration, and we're gonna save you.
You own a boat because you love spending time on the water. Choose the outboard that allows you to make the most of it. Honda Marine's legendary reliability, ease of maintenance, and powerful performance keep you going strong. And they're all backed by the peace of mind protection of the industry's best limited warranty. Visit your Honda Marine dealer today and find out why it's more than an engine. It's your time on the water.
1914, the same year the first commercial flight soared and the Panama Canal opened, Greer Industries was born. Herbert and Agnes Greer began in Morgantown, West Virginia, striking the first pick into the limestone formation that would become the backbone of one of the state's great industrial legacies. From the roads we drive on, the buildings we build, and the communities we serve, Greer Industries has been delivering quality for decades. At Greer Industries, we've been improving lives for more than a century.
Of course, the LVA was brought into my life because I had a severe heart attack in November of 2024. And then I entered into congestive heart failure.
Where he was in the course, we really had to go towards an LVAD.
At that point, I was committed. At that point, I wanted to get better, and I wanted to see what this machine was going to do for me.
With this therapy, he's thriving, doing well. And not only is he living, he's thriving.
Looking for a show that talks about everything? You found it.
By the way, I'm really happy to talk about this as opposed to Ryan's opinion that being a sports fan is a bad thing.
He said that it kept him from being stressed about it, not that it was a bad thing, that he didn't have the stress. And, I mean, I've seen you pace.
Yeah, you're only 30 and you look like that.
So true.
Join Dave Weekly and Coop weekdays for Hotline on Metro News Television.
Welcome back to the show. 12 away from 3 o'clock on a Friday afternoon. It is Metro News Midday. Open line West Virginia, 1-800-765-TALK. Text 304-TALK-304. The governor, I was just doing a little perusing of the social media there during the break. Governor Morrissey joined local leaders and community representatives in Uptown Beckley, this is his words on his X page, to announce $637,000 in federal and state grant funding for 5 key infrastructure and community development projects across the region. We'll have more about that soon. WVMetroNews.com. Also, and this kind of ties into the next text I'm going to read, in case you missed this yesterday, the governor appointed Aaron Scott Hawley to the West Virginia House to represent District 22. And that having been said, that leads me to the next text, which was congrats, I should say, to Big Shane Stack for being named the newly appointed delegate of the 4th District. I do not know this gentleman personally, but I did, when I found out about the announcement, reach out to him, and I'm going to have him on the show one day next week. I like to try to do that when I can, to reach out to when a new legislator is appointed. I try to reach out to him, give an opportunity, and I was actually messaging back and forth with him earlier, and I think he was on vacation. So next week, told him to, keep doing what you're doing with the family. I can wait. We'll have him on next Monday, Tuesday or so. 1-800-765-TALK, text 304-TALK 304. Text, St. Albans High has 2 Christian clubs. They have 0 liberal, communist, LGBT clubs. Take your conservative indoctrination and 7th grade education back to the basement, loser, says the texter. Well, I can tell you there are schools in West Virginia that do have programs of LG, and my mouth doesn't work right when I try to LGBTQ. There are several. Then one particular high school that I visited a few years ago when I was in state government had basically a club at the school that were sort of just promoted themselves as allies of the community. But not every school, of course. Text, 1 year back in West Virginia, and Rich Rod has gray hair. What's up with that? Well, he's another year older. I mean, that's all I'm going to say. He's another year older. It happens. Text, is there corruption at the state capitol? Just wondering where's the money. 1-800-765-TALK, text 304-TALK 304. Text says, my kids are grown, and I don't have kids of their own yet, but when they do, I'll beg and plead with them not to put their kids in public schools. And I appreciate the text. I would be interested in knowing why, though. I mean, look, I'm a big believer in parents have to make decisions that are right for their particular family, okay, when it comes to whether it's public school, private school, homeschool, Hope Scholarship, whatever. I'm a big believer in that. And look, there are, I can name off the top of my head right now about 2 or 3 people that had kids that did not educate them all in the same way. One particular lady I know, she and her husband chose to have one kid in public school. One kid, I think, was homeschooled, and the other went to a parochial school. So, yes, it all depends on the kid. You do you. Whatever's best for your kid. 1-800-765-TALK, text 304-TALK 304. This may not be the best endorsement of the public school system, but I was a product of the public school system in the 1970s and 80s. I enjoyed it. I thought I got a pretty decent education. Now, you may listen to the show every day and go, something jumped the track somewhere. My sister, who's 10 years younger than I, she went to a Christian school. And she's been very successful in her career as a nurse. So, I think in those particular cases, they seem to work out okay. But again, you listen to this show, you may say, that's not really the most ringing endorsement for public education. Dave Allen, it's not that. Text says, no, Hope recipients are surely not indoctrinating their children, wink, wink. The gentleman from New Jersey has already appointed his yes man as tourism director. Hard to believe he is a West Virginian. Text, I owed my county $743.33 in school taxes, not close to the $5,300 pay raise you get to send and educate your children by teachers who don't even have to hold a teaching certificate. Worst legislation in our state's history, says the texter. Text says, so glad the war is over and the economy's better. Thank you, DJT. I do believe that was done with a little bit of sarcasm. Just saying. Text, legislators talk about school aid formula, fewer students, less aid, more expenses for utility staff, etc., and Hope scholarships pull more students out. School aid formula needs more work. They talk, but don't do anything. Final text of the week. The public schools, says the texter of today, are not the same when people our age went to school, Dave. Totally different world. Well, yeah, it is a totally different world all around. And keep in mind, I graduated high school in 1988 and started school in what year would it have been, Dave? Math, 1975. So, yeah, I'm going to say that time frame from 75 to 88, there were a lot of changes and even more post then, and especially after COVID. 2:53, we'll wrap it up after this.
We'll be right back. This is Metro News Midday. Metro News, the voice of West Virginia.
Of course, the LVA was brought into my life because I had a severe heart attack in November of 2024. And then I entered into congestive heart failure.
Where he was in the course, we really had to go towards an LVAD.
At that point, I was committed. At that point, I wanted to get better, and I wanted to see what this machine was going to do for me.
With this therapy, he's thriving, doing well. And not only is he living, he's thriving.
I'm Sean Kovich, Mountaineer Golf Coach. When disaster strikes your home, business, or golf game, call the restoration company the Mountaineers call. Panhandle Cleaning and Restoration.
You own a boat because you love spending time on the water. Choose the outboard that allows you to make the most of it. Honda Marine's legendary reliability, ease of maintenance, and powerful performance keep you going strong. And they're all backed by the peace of mind protection of the industry's best limited warranty. Visit your Honda Marine dealer today and find out why it's more than an engine. It's your time on the water.
Looking for a show that talks about everything? You found it.
By the way, I'm really happy to talk about this as opposed to Ryan's opinion that being a sports fan is a bad thing.
He said that it kept him from being stressed about it, not that it was a bad thing, that they didn't have the stress. And, I mean, I've seen you pace.
Yeah, you're only 30 and you look like that.
So true.
Join Dave Weekly and Coop weekdays for Hotline on Metro News Television.
Being blind doesn't always.
The Foundation Fighting Blindness is leading the charge in finding treatments and cures for blinding diseases. Learn more at fightingblindness.org.
A public service message from the Foundation Fighting Blindness.
Every day, we fight to preserve magnificent places and wildlife, to keep our water and air safe, and to advance clean energy and combat climate change. We're Earth Justice, a national legal nonprofit fighting for your right to a healthy environment. We're Earth Justice, and we're here because the Earth needs a good lawyer. No one fights and wins more cases on the environment than we do. Want to join us in this fight? The time is now. Go to earthjustice.org today. That's earthjustice.org.
Welcome back to the show. 3 minutes in front of the top of the hour, 3 p.m. on a Friday afternoon. Metro News Midday, powered by Salango Law. Visit salangolaw.com. Stephanie Pauly, Ryan Nicholson, our producers today. Look who's here, ladies and gentlemen. The great-grandson of the inventor of Brill Cream, it's Dave Weekly.
What do you do? Do you AI that every day?
I write it on
You write it down in longhand. Oh, that's awesome.
Yes, and in writing that no one else would be able to read but me with my giant Sharpie. That's what I do. About a minute before you come in here, I go, and I write it down. I got a head full of nothing. What was this you were asking me? You came in here.
Well, I was just talking with some other people about this. I think there's kind of a misconception of people who are in radio and in the DJ business, a phrase you don't like.
I don't like.
You don't like a broadcaster.
Well,
broadcaster who plays records occasionally.
I did start out by playing records,
Okay.
yes.
Well, I was a DJ too, and I
Yeah.
don't really have a problem with
I
that.
don't really have a problem with it. It's just I don't think when you're people say now I'm a DJ. I do a music shift on the mountain, our station here in Charleston, but I think a DJ is somebody more in a club.
Yeah, and you're a walking encyclopedia of a certain
genre.
certain classical or rock genre.
Yeah.
But I think most people think that those of us in radio are really like obsessed with sound and we have high-end stereos and we're obsessive about headphones and all that kind of stuff.
I got in my home. You and I were talking about this during the break. I have got a case in my office filled with CDs with nothing to play them on because my vehicle doesn't have a CD player. My laptop, you can't play them, so I'm not going to go buy one. So I probably should do something with them because they're just kind of sitting there collecting dust. But no, I am not. I don't stream music at all. If I want to listen to something, if it's not on our radio stations, by the way, cheap plug. I'll go on YouTube and look it up. And
I know somebody will say something to me like, "Okay, boomer," but it's a fact that physical media is coming back.
Oh yeah,
it is coming back.
Well, according the statistics are, just was reading an article this morning that radio in itself is still around and still doing quite well.
Of course it is. It's immediate. It's live. It's happening in the moment.
And we're here.
Well, yeah, there's that.
All right. Have a good weekend. Those guys coming up. I'll see you Monday. Till then, have fun and love somebody.